Hello everyone, Bean here. So, verses today. Verses? Yeah. CHARVEL's 7.84 pounds, 8.83 pounds. Both are considered to be ash bodies. I think this is a swamp ash. I think this is just a natural ash. Not really sure. I can't say for sure, man. But let me make some noise with both of them, then I'll go over the specs. They're very similar. Yeah, except this one has that sunburn kind of look. Look at that. Would you look at that? It's gorgeous. Let's see what we have here. Okay, so this one here, I believe, almost the same pickups. JB, I think. I get them confused all the time. Yeah. In any case, Damasio pickups. You can't go wrong with Damasio or Seymour Duncan, no matter what you have in your guitar. My only advice is if you're going to put one brand in your guitar, unless it's like a factory brand pickup, if you have another brand pickup in your guitar, you want to have the same name, only because they are compatible together. I found in my experience, if you put a Seymour Duncan with a Damasio and you go between pickups, you get a little bit of noise that shouldn't be there. When you have them, a Damasio, and you're going from the bridge to the neck, Seymour Duncan, neck to the bridge, you don't get that little bit of unwanted noise because they're wired differently. Probably, maybe, I guess. I don't know, really. So, this has the grooves in it. You could actually feel it. It's, it's super cool. I like it. I just don't play it as much. I just like how I've got the yellow pickup, the red pickup. So I just changed the knobs to the yellow knob and the red knob just to match. And I put a yellow toggle switch cover, cap, whatever you want to call it, on here. Because it looks so cool. Yeah. The both of them have 22, I believe, medium jumbo frets on an ebony fingerboard with pearl dot inlays. locking Floyd Rose 1000 on both. Open ribbon pickups. Again, volume and tone, and it's a simple 3-way, which is all I need. I don't need to be splitting pickups, because what happens, they sound like crap. You've got a standard Stratocaster body, you know, with your belly cut, your forearm contour. You got your Charvel plate, satin maple neck on the back of both. So it's a sweet guitar. Routed, so they're both floaters. And yeah, just is, every time I take it out, it's cool. You know, that's the best thing. Put it in a case, because you don't see it, out of sight, out of mind. And then when you pop open the case and you're like, whoa, you know, all of a sudden it glows. So yeah, I put this up on for sale, but again, now that I'm playing it, I think I should remove it from the selling block. Let's move on to what I think is the Swamp Ash, slightly by a pound-ish lighter than the Sunburn. Natural, you've got your volume, your tone, and nothing splitting here. Although, you know, you could put a 5-way in either one. So if you go on the second position, you could like split them, split the pickup, or go same thing here. If you had it in the 4th position, you could probably split that pickup. Or they do something where they go like that and then they go like that. But who needs it? 3-way is all I need. Yeah, man. So this has the kill switch there where you turn it off. They both do. Awesome. That's what I was talking about on my other Charvel that I had, the blue one. It's got it where if you go to 10, it clicks off and it bypasses the signal altogether, which is sweet. And same thing here. Satin maple neck, ebony fingerboard, pearl dot inlays, 22 frets, Floyd Rose 1000, and this one has Seymour Duncan pickups, which I probably noticed right now for the very first time. Damasio, Seymour Duncan. Crazy. That's the difference between the two, but they both sound good. And when I go in the neck position, I do hit the dirty boost on my attack drive, Demon FX attack drive, just to boost it up a little bit, you know. So let's have at it. I'm playing through my Marshall DSL 20 on 10 watts. Yeah, 10 watts. And you could get one of these amps and play it in your room, in an apartment. You have a volume control. The people that are saying, oh, go with the 5 watt, they're talking out their ass. Yeah, man. Phaser back on. Get in position. Yeah, so I noticed that the Damasio pickups have a lot more punch to them in that guitar. This being a lighter Swamp Ash, I would think that it would resonate the pickups a little bit more. These pickups sound brighter, but less punch, less low end from what I was just hearing with the amp right behind me. Now, again, it's behind my head. It's not facing towards the ear canal. So, but yeah, the Damasio pickups are definitely have a lot more punch to them in either position. I noticed when I went to the neck position and then I hit the dirty boost on the Demon FX Attack Drive Andy Timmons clone from Amazon for like 60 bucks, $59. You know, it really brought it to life a little bit. As for the Damasio, it really, between the Damasio and the Attack Drive, stacked with the gain on the amp, that's about 4 or 5, it really gave it that kung pao chicken. Yeah, man. So again, routed, you got a floater, it's sweet. Standard Stratocaster body, no contoured heel, by the way, on either one. You know, that's disappointing. Other than that, yeah. And I notice when I'm playing, and I it's funny, when I use the wah-wah, I do this Steve Vai sucking in my cheek kind of thing. I go, let me just, you know, like the goldfish kind of thing. And I'm aware of it, and then I try not to do it. You know, then you know, when I go back to it again, it's the same thing. And I've seen guys do that. I've seen other guys besides Vi. I've seen Robin Trower doing the same thing. So yeah, I just funny things that's going through my head right now. Vi, I was friends with his family, his aunt and uncle and cousins. His cousin used to work out with me, come over to my house and work out with me. I used to go to his uncle's body shop. I was the only one that he wanted on his property, along with, you know, 2 dozen more, only to do glass work for them. And his other cousin, the girl, the daughter of the aunt and uncle from the body shop. It was Nessaquag Auto Body in St. James, Smithtown area, same thing. So yeah, she came to my shop one day, and because she used to work at the body shop as well, that's how I knew her, along with the son, and said, you know, hey, Richie, what can you do about my car? You know, I believe I had to change the windshield in her car. Her dad got this car for her because there was either an accident or someone died in the car, okay? So I remember, you know, I'm pretty sure I replaced the windshield in the car. I'm not certain, you know, 100%. But she brought it back to my shop, and she said, you know, there's a smell in the car. You know, that dead body smell? I don't know if anyone's ever smelled a dead body or ever seen a dead body. I've seen 2. It's horrible. You can't unsee it. And I was like, no, there's nothing really that I know of that you can get that smell out of the car. And I went in the car, and whew, man, it just hits you. And so she's driving with the windows down. So in the summertime, that's okay, but in the wintertime, I don't know. Now, I realize you could put an ionizer in there, shut up the windows, put it in there for a couple of hours, and it's supposed to eliminate any smell, even if there's a smoker that drove the car. But I didn't know that at the time, and I just said, maybe if you get the rugs cleaned, the interior and the headliner, maybe that might work. And so yeah, that was I remember that. It triggered me because when I said to Steve Vai, the way he sucks in his cheeks and he's got the fan blowing on his hair, it triggered that memory back in the day. But what I was getting to is that it reminds me when I do that, and I try not to, it reminds me of guys that imitate Bruce Lee or Bruce Lee fans, which I am a huge Bruce Lee fan. I had so much stuff on him, books. I had the books where you could flip through the pages and it's frame by frame because, we didn't have VHS back in the time, and you could see the movement of him with the nunchaku. I had every kind of Inside Kung Fu magazine and anything else I get my hands on. I had it. I had the tracksuit. I had, the copies of the nunchakus that he used to use. And, because of him, I was 10 years old. I started the martial arts. And because I remember, I think it was 1967, seeing the Green Hornet and seeing, him fighting outside with a pair of black nunchucks. Back in the day, we didn't know any better. We were calling them nunchucks. We were calling chuckus, chuckers, chucks, instead of the proper name, nunchaku. So, of course, I did what everyone did. I went in and I took my father's. I was looking for a broom handle, and I couldn't find a broom stick that I can cut. And the one that I had found, of my mom's, was super thin. I think it was plastic, like a plastic or aluminum handle with the plastic around it. And I was hoping to find a broomstick with a rounded end because I wanted, both of them to have a rounded end, like Bruce Lee's. So because I couldn't find it, I took my dad's axe handle. It was oval too. And I cut that in half, 12 inches. And I used the old eye hooks. I put them in the vise, and I opened them up with a pair of pliers. I used my dog's collar, dog chain collar, I believe it was. And I made it like that long. I put it in both ends, and then I locked it back in again with the pliers and the vise. Then, I screwed them in to the end of the wood. I screwed them out, and I put a drop of Elmer's glue in there, and then screwed them in so they won't come out. And those I've had for the longest time. And, of course, I wish I still had them. And I took black spray paint, and I actually spray painted them both, the nunchakus, black. So that was my start. And I see guys that imitate, Bruce Lee all the time, and they're all with the, with this and the movement and the whoa sound. And I'm like, don't get me wrong. I love seeing that when Bruce Lee does it. I don't like seeing anyone imitate it, even if they're doing it out of fun, So I remember back in the day, the last style that I studied Aikido, Judo, Taekwondo, Karate, Chinese Kung Fu. I was training with a friend of mine from Hong Kong that came over to the States. And then Ryukyu Okinawa Karate from Sifu Oyada. We call him Master Oyada, but he's Sifu. And he's a guy that would hit you with like 2 fingers and knock you out, attack your nervous system and stuff like that. I think I mentioned him one time before. So yeah, I remember, that was the 5th style that I was studying, and I was was ranking up belts. I just started. I was just there 2 weeks. I got my black tips, and then a couple of not even 3 months later, like I was just going through the ranks because I went in there not knowing that I know anything. First of all, I said I don't even know how to tie the belt. So I remember the sensei tying my belt like I was, like a 5-year-old, get my shoelaces tied, going to school for the first time. And then before I know it, a couple of months later, I'm up to I think it was a purple belt or something like that. I was flying through them. And then they started this, this competition. And we had a guy that came to the school, and he was a Golden Gloves. He was 23 out of 24 fights, he won. That's what he was claiming. Bigger than me by like 2 inches, and just like a Schwarzenegger body. He was built. And this guy, we were training, and he was his first time there, and I'm holding the air shield, it's a foam shield. I had an air shield. And he's kicking me all around the gym. Very powerful guy. And he's punching and kicking, and I'm like, man, I don't want to get hit by this guy. But he kept on making these, whoa, cat sounds, the Bruce Lee cat sounds. And my head sensei, one of the partners of the other Sifu that we had, that's why we called Master Oyata, because we had a sensei and then a Sifu and Master Oyata, just to try to clarify things. And he got fed up, and he's like, hey, I said, he told him, he said, we don't, Bruce Lee is dead, and those sounds died with him. So, just if you're going to make a noise, just do a kia, I just breathe. I don't make any, I just breathe out. I don't want to make a noise and let someone know what that I'm coming in for them. So he got pissed, my head sensei, and he said, okay, everyone gears up. And he normally doesn't do this for a newbie for the first time. And he gears up, and I remember he comes over, and we had the headpiece, that metal like you see with the bamboo swords, the headpiece, the tortoiseshell chest protector, and the Kempo gloves that Bruce Lee used in Enter the Dragon. And he comes over, and he's helping gear me up for the first time, and I'm wondering what's going on. He's stitching my, tying up my back. He's tying up the back of my headpiece. Then he comes over to the front, and he grabs the cage, it's like a metal cage in the front. He grabs it, and he says, hurt this guy, beat him, kind of thing, something like that. I remember him saying, hurt him, and I was like, okay. I wasn't afraid, and I wasn't excited at the same time. I was like, just happy to fight. So maybe a little bit excited, because I always was. And, I was thinking to myself, like, I just got to make sure I don't get hit by this guy, because he's a powerhouse. So he was great when you're standing still, but moving on his feet, I don't know how he survived, how he won 23 out of 24 Golden Glove fights. Because on his feet, he couldn't. Because like I said, I'm 6'2", he must have been 6'4", and he was bigger, more muscular than me. And, unless you're standing still, he could, he could kick you hard, and he could punch you hard. But on his feet, he couldn't do, jack shit. So I remember just ripping through him like shit through a goose. And, my head sensei came over. He was very satisfied with what happened. And remember him saying that, like, good job, and untying me from getting the headpiece and the chest protector. And that was it. That guy never came back. He came for one class, and he left. That was the end of it. But I remember that playing when I'm going with the wah-wah pedal and doing that, like it's coming out of my mouth. And I remember seeing Vi do that, and seeing Trower doing the same thing. And it just clicks a memory, like, stop doing that. And then it interferes with my playing, because I'm like, okay, everything that I do from start to finish, it's in a sequence. And I'm like, okay, what am I doing? What's the next? So I remember I changed it up this time, because I was the first time, because it just hit me so hard that I was trying to forget what was going on in my head and try to remember going back to the playing. So yeah, I'm sorry, it's another long-winded story, but a lot of people, I'm sure, click out before I get that far. Two great guitars, and I think now for sure, not knowing all this time, that these are Seymour Duncans, those are Damasio. This is made in Mexico, that's made in Korea, you know, so that's, I think, a little bit more rare than this one. And I think I'm going to be pulling that off of Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist now as I speak. And my daughter would be happy about that because, you know, I told her I'd leave her that, you know, that guitar. That would be passed on when I'm gone, dead and gone, no longer above ground. So thanks for watching. Have a good day and a better tomorrow, always.